During college I did something very stupid. I was with my girlfriend for 2 years. I loved my girlfriend very much. She cheated. I found her and she was calm, and then she offered to break up. I was very devastated. I took a box of cephalexin, then I drank half a bottle of whiskey. I lost consciousness. My mom called an ambulance and I was taken to the hospital. Before I got there, I was in a coma. I don't know how long it took. The next thing I knew, I felt like I was in bed and then slid out of bed, and I didn't feel drunk at all. I felt sober. I instinctively tried to grab the bed and I jumped up. I was overwhelmed with panic. I saw a house, a car, and some people I had never seen before in my life. I was immediately thrown back into bed. I opened my eyes and saw a doctor on top of me, giving me a chest massage. I tried to sit up again, thinking he would move out of the way, but he didn't. I entered his body again and saw his wife, his children, and his car. I felt his panic. He was so overwhelmed that I slammed back into bed. Looking to my right, I saw my own body next to it. As I looked back, I saw a flash of blue light. I saw a column of light fall to the ground. I heard a voice say, "It's okay, we'll save you." I saw something that looked like a white fairy take my hand. On the other side, a green light approached me and it also took my hand. I couldn't see what it was, and together they pulled me up and into the corner of the room. I pushed them away so I could see what was happening. I saw the doctor trying to revive me, a nurse putting an oxygen mask or something on my head, and my mom in the doorway with her arms crossed. The little white angel said, "We don't have time, we have to get out of here." They took me into a column of light and it was a trip. The movement and the light made me feel a little uncomfortable, so I closed my eyes for a while and opened them every once in a while out of pure curiosity. Along the way, I saw the legendary stairway to heaven with someone leading a dog up it. I saw clouds. When I looked down to earth, I saw a large group of people standing at the gates of heaven. The little angel put me in a room to the right of the gate. I closed my eyes and rested for a while. I opened my eyes and the walls of my room were made of clouds. I started walking toward the clouds and a voice said, "Don't do this. You will regret it. You'll get lost in there." I was quite angry because I just wanted to disappear from the world. I realized it wasn't what I expected it to be. It was just a different place to live. I thought to myself, so this is heaven. But at least give me a bench to sit on. Just as I was looking down, there was a white marble bench. I thought, great, I bet it would be cold to sit on it. But it wasn't cold. As I sat down, the clouds in the room started to darken and began to swirl. It opened like an elevator door and there were 3 people standing there, illuminated by a light. I could feel them and I could see them. One of them was my grandmother, another was a very old lady, and the third was a young girl who happily entered the room and sat down next to me. The door closed and she asked me what had happened. I'm not very good at communicating with people I don't know, but her care seemed to put all my questions into perspective. She took me on a few different journeys. She showed me some things from the past. Things I have done that were impressive, and things that I never knew about. They showed me the people who would be affected by my death. The next thing I knew, I was waking up on a sunny day on a patch of grass. I could hear a girl and several people who were laughing and communicating in a very silly way. I tried to get up quietly and look out onto the grass to see who it was. I saw a dilapidated house. A breeze blew across the grass and I could smell something very foul. I finally saw the people who were talking, but they weren't really human. They were wearing overalls, but they had jackal faces. They noticed me and came running. They asked me who I was and where I was from. Just then, one of them pointed at the sky. I saw a crack and the sky was torn open. A huge, brown creature jumped out and landed next to me. With horns all over his head and 6 eyes, he didn't look like the creatures you see in the movies. He was more like a cartoon. He smelled very bad and he kept roaring and his words were full of curses and insults. I don't remember what all he said, but he grabbed me and jumped back into the hole in the sky. We landed on a platform in space with a wall that looked like a TV screen. It was actually cubes. He told me it was hell, and that each cube was a custom-made hell for a different soul. He explained that everyone's sins are different, so hell is constantly changing. He derived great pleasure from watching people's suffering. As I walked against the wall, I was sucked into one of the cubes and found myself in a small red room. Soon, the door opened and a man and a woman walked in. They asked if I needed something. I usually refuse the kindness of strangers, so I said, no, but they kept pestering me and became annoying, and I finally told them a burger and Coke. After a while, they came back with a burger and a Coke. Let me take a bite and enjoy it. I finally gave in and took a bite. I looked to make sure it was normal. After taking a bite, it tasted so bad I spit it out and they laughed as I tried to get that awful taste out of my mouth. Then they apologized and offered to give me a different burger. I said, no thanks. They started convincing me again that they were just kidding and it wouldn't happen again. I stopped talking to them and these 2 men actually had jackal faces with clear masks on. I realized that I could see through their masks and that this whole thing was just a way to torture me. I was yanked out of the cube by inexplicable forces. As I left, I heard the demons screaming, no. The other thing I knew was that I saw all the bad things I had done and had put into other people's emotions when I did bad things to them. It was painful and overwhelming to relive things that I had forgotten. Or simply didn't care about. I was made to feel what others felt. I was cold and shivering. I opened my tear-filled eyes and found myself kneeling in some kind of cave. It had a low ceiling, a damp floor, and was very dark. I felt very lonely. I started trying to find the exit in the darkness. It was hard, I couldn't stand up because the ceiling was too low. I didn't want to get wet because I was too cold. Soon, I saw a white light in front of me, and I hoped it would be warmer to be near this light. I saw that there were other people near the light, and the group was kneeling at the edge of a hole. I could tell there was a fire inside. I saw a girl on her knees with a rope wrapped around her neck and another man with the back of his head blown off. I heard screams coming from the cave in front of me and I tried to get these people to talk to me and tell me where I was. One man told me not to talk or I would be next. Then a huge, ugly demon came out of the cave, grabbed them, and dragged them into the cave. I began to worry that I was next. I fell to my knees. As I tried to close my eyes, realizing I couldn't, I looked around and realized that's why everyone looked like zombies. You can't close your eyes. You can't talk to other people. You can't stand up. You can't sit down. You can only kneel there and all you can do is stare into the hole, listen to the screams, and hope you're not next. I saw a man in a robe who was about 40 years old, and I thought he looked like a monk. After a long time, my eyes became hard, and I finally decided that it was worth it to endure this if I could just close my eyes and rest for a while. When my evil deeds appeared, I began to whimper, and I heard a voice say, "Maybe there is a way to save you." I thought to myself, how? The voice said, "Say these words, 'Jesus, please save me.'" I said the words out loud. The voice said, "Again," so I said it again and again. The screaming stopped, and when I looked up, I saw a man sitting on a huge stone chair. Next to him was a silver-winged creature, and to his left was a woman. Behind her were some very old people. I realized that this was Jesus, with the angel on his right and the woman on his left being the Virgin Mary. I just guessed that there was a look of disappointment on Jesus' face that touched my soul and made me feel very ashamed. The angel said, "Tell us what brought you here." I started to explain that I didn't think the world was fair and I didn't want to be there anymore. He looked at me and asked, "Who told you that this is a fair world?" The girl I first met in heaven swooped down on me and took me to a somewhat dark hall. We were in front of a big door. When I asked her where we were, she told me she had something to show me. The door opened and a group of people came out. I saw a group of priests, and when the room was clear, we went inside. It was dark inside, and there was a large round table with a 3D display in the middle. An old man took me to him and he asked, "So why are you here?" The girl explained that I felt that life was not fair to me. He began to explain that heaven is a safe place where souls are protected and cared for by the Lord. Everyone has a place in the world, and that place is determined by your actions on earth. People are rarely satisfied with their position, they are always eager to move forward. The soul in heaven is no exception. He explains that I have entered into a contract with the Creator, and I must fulfill that contract or suffer the consequences of breaking it. And I have been warned. My only option was to go back and finish my work. I didn't say a word. For me, it wasn't a very good thing. I think he was just an old guy with a bad attitude who kicked us out of the room and slammed the door behind us. I went back to Jesus. The Virgin Mary asked me what I thought about what I had learned. I told her that it was wrong to put up with people hurting me, that Jesus should protect me, and that if I went back, I wanted him to make things right. He looked at me and said, "My child, I cannot cause pain to others, I can only heal those who are hurting." I asked to talk to God. Our Lady said, "You cannot see God." Jesus spoke up and said, "No one can see God." Jesus asked, "Do you know why I saved you from hell?" I answered, "I don't know." He said, "Remember the man in the robe in hell?" I realized in that moment that Jesus was with me and always had been. I began to weep bitterly. I held my head in my hands and wept uncontrollably. Our Lady told me to come up and kiss his feet. When I crawled to his feet, I saw that they were dirty and torn, like a man who had never worn shoes, but I kissed his feet anyway. I cried and said I wanted to stay. Jesus said, "Give me a chance to finally make things right." As I entered the tunnel to return, I saw a strange phenomenon. There was an eye in the middle of the tunnel, and when it turned, I could see the scene around me, and I realized that this was God. He allowed me to see him in this way, and I realized that Jesus was with me all the time, and I just walked away in peace. When I entered my body again, I could feel my heart beating. I felt the pain. And the uncomfortable feeling of lying in one place for a long time. I didn't react, I just lay there for a few days, and for a moment I felt a hand holding me, and I struggled to open my eyes to see who it was. I saw a young girl with long hair standing next to my bed, holding my hand. When I woke up, I asked the nurse who she was and where she had gone. When I described to her, she looked very surprised that there was no young girl in the ICU, but she explained to me that I had been in the ICU for 3 days. My girlfriend and I never saw each other again, but I have forgiven her in my heart.